formal way of saying, my house is your house. If I had said, mi casa, tu casa, then that's a little bit more informal, that's what you would tell a friend. But anyways, no one really caught that one. So, mi casa, su casa, does that mean that the individual can roam the house as he pleases? Prosecution would say yes. When someone says mi casa, su casa, they're inviting you to go into the house. In fact, when you invite a friend to a house and they ask for permission to use the restroom, are they asking for permission to use the restroom, or are they telling you, I'm going to use the restroom? If they say, I'm going to use the restroom, then they're not asking for permission and they can roam the house freely. Defense would say, no, no. When someone says, mi casa, su casa, and they come to your house, they're only going to stay in this place where they're going to wait for you. Does not give them permission to roam the house. It only gives them permission to stay in the place. They can't go in, when I invite guests, they can't go into the bedroom, my bedroom. They can't go into the restroom. They can't go into the kitchen. They're going to wait for me here, especially since they're police officers. They're not my friends. I don't know them. So therefore, their consent is only limited to the living room. Prosecution will keep going and say, no, they can go anywhere they want it, so therefore they can go into the bedroom. So they see the backpack, and the question is, if they're going to use the plain view argument for the backpack, they need two things. They have legal permission to be in the bedroom. Prosecution would say, yes, they did. They have legal permission under the exception of consent. They were able to go where he has an expectancy of privacy because of the exception of consent. Was the item that they saw in plain view? Was it obvious at the moment that they saw it that it was apparent that that was illegal or a crime had been committed? Prosecution would define probable cause as any articulable facts that an ordinary person would infer that a crime has been committed. Would a person, knowing that his wife has just been killed, would infer that by seeing the bloody knife, that somebody may have done something wrong? Prosecution would say yes. So therefore, now they had legal permission to arrest him. They have probable cause to arrest. In order to seize somebody, you either need a warrant or an exception to a warrant. And this exception is incident to lawful arrest. Defense would say, it's not plain view. They had no legal permission to be inside the bedroom because the consent only limited the person, the officer, to the bedroom. So therefore, they can't use a plain view argument. But defense will go further and say, but let's assume that the court allows you to have legal permission to be in the bedroom. That item was not in plain view. It wasn't apparent. The backpack wasn't open. How could they see that there was a bloody knife or a gun unless they opened the backpack? Sure, it was unzipped, but unless they're Superman, then how would they be able to see a bloody knife with color when the backpack is closed and a glove? So you would say, no, plain view doesn't apply. But then, Gallo breaks away and he starts running. He is hauling butt. So at the moment that you have handcuffs on you and you break away, now the officers have probable cause to chase. So therefore, the hot pursuit may apply. So because there's an expectancy of privacy inside Gallo's best friend's house, a warrant is required to enter or an exception. There's no exception of consent that we can see. There might be an exception of exigency that you may want to make an argument. But let's go with the hot pursuit exception. So in order for hot pursuit exception to apply, you need probable cause to chase. Here the officers had probable cause to chase because he broke away from handcuffs. The cops chased him into his bedroom. The cops never lose sight of him. Therefore, there was no break in the chase. They were able to enter Gallo's best friend's room. They chase him into the bedroom, where there's also an expectancy of privacy, But under the exception of hot pursuit, because they're chasing him, and they have probable cause to chase because he broke away from the handcuffs, and they saw him go into the bedroom with no break in the chase, they're able to detain him inside the bedroom. So now there is a lawful arrest here. There's a lawful arrest because he broke away from the officers. Not because you think he committed murder, but because he broke away from the police officers. Therefore, there is a lawful arrest. Once we have a lawful arrest, the officers are able to search the person, even though there's an expectancy of privacy under that exception of incidental lawful arrest, to see if he has anything that may harm the officers. The officers may still go further and check the drawers under the armed lanes, under the exception of incidental lawful arrest. And if they find anything inside the drawers, then they can use that as evidence. Defense would say, wait a minute, there is no hot pursuit chase, because there was never no reason to arrest him to begin with. So if there's no reason to arrest him, then they have no probable cause to chase him. So if they have no probable cause to chase him, then they can't use the exception of hot pursuit, and therefore they could never enter the bedroom. The prosecution may rebut that and say, well, wait a minute, there's the exigency exception. And under exigency, if you have probable cause to believe that someone may be harmed or injured, then you might have the reason to go inside. The officers have seen a bloody knife and a bloody gun that one could infer, a reasonable person could infer, that crime has been committed and someone has been injured. So therefore, we don't need the hot pursuit exception. All we need is the exigency exception to enter the bedroom. Defense would say, no, because the way they received the facts was illegal. The plain view exception doesn't apply because they did not have legal permission to be inside Gallo's bedroom, and the item wasn't apparent. So then prosecution will come back and say, okay, assuming that's the case, then we're able to do a protective sweep inside Mother Teresa's room. And the reason why we're able to do the protective sweep in Mother Teresa's room, even though she has an expectancy of privacy, because in the instance of lawful arrest, we're able to do that. But we can only do that if we have a reasonable suspicion that someone may be there with a weapon. And we've already found weapons. We found weapons in the backpack, in the bedroom, and the backpack inside Gallo's room. So therefore, we can just make sure to check that there's someone inside. So now that we have legal permission to be inside a room, now we may use the exception of plain view to be able to seize the photographs of little boys and girls. So because we have legal permission under incidental lawful arrest, now the pictures that we see are apparent. We have probable cause to believe that someone, based on these facts, has committed a crime. We don't know what's Mother Teresa's bedroom. There's pictures. Who carries pictures of little boys and girls? It's obvious by looking at those pictures that that's a little 5, 6-year-old boy. And clearly you can see the genitals. And who has them left in the bed, let's say? Whatever argument you're going to make, but you need to give me the raw definition. How you try to coordinate those arguments doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is that you use the definitions. And of course, defense would say, where's my defense? Would have said about this, that there is no plain view because it wasn't apparent. Officers know where Mother Teresa lives. They know that she works with kids, little boys and girls. They're just harassing her. It's not obvious. No person in a reasonable mind would say if they saw the pictures that was child pornography. It's not like they were posing or anything. So clearly it's not. And that's the way I wanted you guys to know. Any questions? Anyone think they said that during their argument? You touched on it after I got on. But you guys have to give me the definitions. If you guys don't give me the definitions, you're not going to be able to make the argument. That's why I made you guys defense or prosecution. On the exam, if I make you a neutral person like a judge, then you can say this is introduced and this is not introduced. But as prosecutors, you always introduce all the evidence. Always. Always. If you're defense, you always exclude it. I just want to see if you guys can make an argument where it's hard to make an argument. And that's what you're going to have to do in life. You're going to have to make an argument knowing that you don't believe in that argument, or that you don't have anything to make that argument, because your boss or somebody wants you to make that argument. In any workforce that you're going to be in, you're going to have to do something you don't want to do. And you have two options. Either you do it or you don't. If you don't do it, then you have nothing to worry about. But if you do it, you need to know how to do it. You need to know how to make an argument, even knowing you guys going to be a hell of an argument to make. This is why people get paid the bucks. But you gotta learn it. You gotta learn both sides of the argument. The more you learn both sides, the easier it's gonna be for you to make an argument for your side. Because you know what they're going to say. You guys should have anticipated what each person was going to say already. Defense should have anticipated. This is the argument that prosecution is going to make, and how are we going to rebut that argument? Prosecution was going to say the same thing. We know defense is going to make this argument. How do we rebut that argument? How do we beat them? It's like sports. You know LeBron's going to go down on the post. You know that's going to happen. You know Kobe's going to do the same thing. How do you stop him defensively? You have to anticipate what he's going to do. Same thing anywhere in life. Always anticipate what the other person is going to do. And how are you going to defend? Any questions?
Is it the same for sentencing, Charles?
What do you mean?
Like, does the same rules like